90% of parents report feeling a crushing sense of public shame the moment their child begins to scream in a crowded grocery store. Why do we instinctively prioritize the comfort of total strangers over the emotional development of our own children? Is it possible that our frantic attempts to stop the noise are actually making the behavior worse in the long run? The single biggest mistake we make during a childhood tantrum is believing that we must stop it immediately. When a child is screaming at the checkout counter, we usually want only one thing. We want it to end right this second, not in 5 minutes, and certainly not after a calm discussion at home. We feel the weight of every wandering eye, and in that moment of panic, we stop parenting and start performing. We buy the chocolate bar just to buy the silence. We use empty threats to spark fear so the child will stop. We try to explain complex logic and family rules while the child is in the middle of an emotional storm. Sometimes these tactics actually work for 2 minutes, but there is a painful truth that is rarely discussed in parenting circles. If you extinguish every tantrum with a bribe, a threat, or a scream of your own, you are not teaching your child how to be calm. You are teaching them that their strongest and most violent emotions have the power to control adults. This is where the Japanese approach to parenting offers a perspective that is almost hauntingly precise. In Japan, there is a core principle known as Mimamoru. It can be translated as watching and protecting. It does not mean abandoning the child or breaking their spirit. It does not mean pretending that nothing is happening. It means staying close enough and calm enough so the child can slowly learn to endure the word no. By the end of this video, you will not have 50 complicated tips that are impossible to remember in a crisis. Instead, you will have one simple evening practice that changes everything. It will not make your child perfectly convenient in one single day. However, it will begin to grow something inside them that many of us lacked in our own childhood. It will build an internal foundation of support. Let us be honest about what happens when a child starts screaming in public. The problem is not just the child. The problem is that a giant spotlight suddenly falls directly onto the parent. You are no longer just a person with a shopping basket. You are suddenly a person being weighed and measured by everyone around you. The woman at the register glances over. The man behind you sighs heavily in frustration. Someone else pretends they are not looking, but you know they are. A very familiar thought begins to scream inside your head. Everyone thinks I'm a failure as a parent. That single thought breaks us much faster than the sound of the child screaming. We stop reacting to our child and start reacting to our own shame. Shame is a terrible teacher. Shame makes us rush. Shame tightens our voices and makes us speak more harshly than we ever intended. It transforms a common scene at the grocery store into a high-stakes exam for the title of good parent. In that moment, you are no longer standing beside your child. You are standing before an invisible jury. You feel the need to prove that you are in control. You feel the need to prove that your child is well-behaved. You want to prove that you are not that parent who has spoiled their child. You are willing to do anything at any cost just to make it quiet. Then, later that night, when the child is finally asleep, the second wave arrives. It is the wave of guilt. You ask yourself why you said those things. You wonder why you lost your temper again. You wonder why you cannot just stay calm. If you have felt this, you are not alone. It does not mean there is something wrong with you. It means that during a tantrum, two overloaded systems are colliding. The first is the nervous system of a child who does not yet know how to handle rejection. The second is the nervous system of an adult who is tired of handling everything. This is where the real conversation about upbringing begins. It does not start with the question of how to make the child shut up. It starts with the question of what is happening inside both of us right now. The concept of Mimamoru looks at behavior through a different lens. It does not see a tantrum as a breakdown or a personal attack. It sees it as a moment where the child is practicing a very difficult skill. They are practicing how to have a strong desire and not fall apart when it is denied. The child at the checkout line is not actually crying about a chocolate bar. The chocolate bar is just the spark. The real storm is happening much deeper. The child wanted the world to say yes, but the world said no. There is no sturdy bridge yet between what I want and what I can have. Even for us as adults, that bridge sometimes shakes. When someone does not answer our message, we feel anxiety. When we are corrected sharply, we feel the urge to defend ourselves. When our plans fail, our mood drops for the entire evening. Now, imagine removing all your adult experience and self-control. Remove your ability to name your feelings with words. Remove your understanding of time, money, and social norms. What is left is a very small person. For that person, a desire does not feel like a thought. It feels like a physical fire. When we tell them to just calm down, we are demanding a result they do not have the tools to produce. It is like telling a person in a pitch-black room to find the light switch immediately when they do not even know where the wall is. Mimamoru does not mean letting the child scream however they want. It is much more subtle than that. The parent does not drown in the child's emotion, but they do not try to plug it up either. The parent stays nearby. The parent breathes and holds the boundary. They give the child a few seconds to meet the reality of what they are feeling. It is not a cold or distant stare. It is a silent internal message that says, "I see this is hard for you." It says, "I am here and I will not be destroyed by your anger." This means everything to a child. A small child cannot calm themselves down alone. They must borrow their calm from an adult. They plug into your nervous system to regulate their own. But if the adult also catches fire, the child has nowhere to find solid ground. They see that their scream scares their mother. They see that their anger breaks their father. This makes them believe that what they are feeling is truly terrifying. The tantrum gets louder not because the child is manipulative, but because their system is searching for a shore. This brings us to another deep layer of Japanese culture called eimei. This word is difficult to translate with just one English equivalent. It is the feeling that you can lean on the love of another person. It is the permission to be small and to need help. It is the knowledge that you do not have to be perfect right away. This is not about indulgence. It is about the basic sense of not being alone. A child who has this feeling does not become weaker. In fact, it is easier for them to become independent because they are not wasting energy checking if they are still loved. They already know they are loved. They are loved even when the answer is no. They are loved even when the chocolate bar is not purchased. They are loved even when they are crying. This is why cold ignoring and Mimamoru are completely different things. Ignoring says, "Your feelings are an inconvenience to me." Mimamoru says, "Your feelings are big. I see them, and I will help you walk through them without destroying yourself or others." On the outside, they might look similar. On the inside, there is a vast canyon between them. To understand this better, we must look into the brain of a child. When a child is in a tantrum, their rational mind is not in charge. The part of the brain responsible for control and planning is still under construction. But the emotional system is already very loud. It is incredibly loud. A child might know the rules perfectly when they are calm. But during an explosion, they lose all access to that knowledge. In the morning, they can say, "We do not ask for sweets at the store." But by the evening at the register, they cry as if that rule never existed. They are not pretending. They are not mocking you. They simply cannot use their brakes when there is too much internal tension. Our job is not to shame them for lacking brakes. Our job is to show them over and over again how to turn the brakes on. We do this through our own breathing. We do this through short phrases. We do this by holding a predictable boundary. Predictability is something children love more than they can say. It is not about letting them do whatever they want. It is the calm knowledge of what will happen next. If Mom said we are not buying it today, that does not change. It does not turn into a yes just to stop the crying. If Dad says the cartoons are over, it does not become one more or just one last one. When a boundary is constantly moving, the child has to test it again and again. They have to check if it will work today, if they just scream louder. This process exhausts everyone, including the child. Sometimes children look like they want to win, but what they actually need is a wall that does not fall. They need a wall that is soft and warm, but still a wall. Now, let us talk about the practice you can start tonight. When your child is finally asleep, choose just one situation where you usually lose your temper. Do not try to fix everything at once. Just pick one. It could be the grocery store, the end of screen time, or getting ready in the morning. Prepare one short and working phrase in advance. For the store, you can say, "I see you want that sweet, but we are not buying it today." For cartoons, you can say, "I understand you want another episode, but the screen is done for today." For leaving the playground, you can say, "It is hard to leave. I am right here, and it is time to go home." One scene, one phrase, one boundary. This works because in moments of stress, a parent's brain also hates to improvise. If you do not have words ready, you will reach for the first ones available. The first ones available are often the ones we heard in our own childhood. We might use phrases that we actually hate, like, "Do not embarrass me," or "You are going to get it." We say them because they are recorded deep in our memory. A pre-selected phrase is like a small flashlight. It does not turn night into day, but it keeps you from stepping somewhere you will later regret. There is another small step you can take. Before you enter the store, tell the child the rules before they see the candy. Not after, but before. Say, "We are going in for groceries, and we are not buying sweets today." Ask them to help you choose the apples instead. This is not a guarantee of silence, but it is a map for the child. It is easier for a child to walk through a place if they know what to expect. Giving them a role helps them feel like a participant, rather than a person who is just being restricted. They become the person who chooses the apples or carries the bread. This leads to the concept of shitsuke. In simple terms, this is upbringing through repetition and habit. It is about small actions that gradually become part of who a person is. It is not a big lecture about responsibility. It is the act of putting a cup in the sink every single night. It is not telling them to act normal. It is hearing a clear rule before entering the store. It is not shouting at them to stop screaming. It is the experience of living through a refusal while being next to a calm adult. Character is rarely built through grand speeches. It is built through the repetition of small, almost invisible, and even boring moments. But that boring repetition eventually produces a beautiful result. One day, your child will reach for a sweet, pause, look at you, and say, "We are not buying this today." In that moment, you will feel a quiet sense of relief. It is not just a phrase they are saying. It is a new bridge in their brain between a desire and an action. It is the link between "I want" and "I can endure." Our goal is not to raise a child who never cries. That is impossible. And it is honestly not necessary. A living child will get angry, cry, argue, and fall into their emotions. Our goal is not to forbid the storm, but to teach them how to return to the shore. They learn this first with us, and then they learn to do it alone. Every time a child hears a calm no and stays connected to you, they gain a tiny bit of experience. They learn that they can survive disappointment. Every time a parent does not buy silence by sacrificing their boundary, the child learns the world is stable. Every time they are not shamed after a tantrum but are calmly returned to the event, they learn that mistakes can be understood. Later at home, you can say, "It was hard for you in the store today." You can say you wanted that sweet, and I said no. You can tell them that next time. They can say, "I really want it," and you will help them endure the refusal. Keep it short and without judgment. Avoid saying things like, "What was that all about?" or "I was so ashamed of you." Shame closes the mind, but clarity opens it. If you do not succeed today, that is also part of the journey. Maybe you will lose your temper. Maybe you will buy the candy because you simply have no strength left. Maybe you will speak more sharply than you wanted to. If that happens, do not turn yourself into the accused in your own kitchen tonight. A child does not need a parent who punishes themselves in silence. They need a parent who knows how to return. You can go to them and say, "I shouted today, and I am sorry." You can say you were angry, and I did not handle it well either. Tell them you will try to speak more calmly next time. This does not destroy your authority. It builds trust because the child sees that the adult is also learning. The deepest truth in all of this is that children do not learn to handle emotions from our words. They learn from how we handle our own emotions. If we shame them for anger, they will grow to be ashamed of their own anger. If we are afraid of their tears, they will become afraid of their own tears. If we answer a scream with a scream, they learn that strong emotions mean war. But if an adult appears next to their storm and remains calm, the child absorbs a different way to live. They learn that things are hard, but they can manage. They learn they can be angry without destroying everything. They learn that even when they are refused, they are still loved. This is what a real internal foundation looks like. It is not perfect silence in a grocery store. It is not having a child you can show off to others. It is a person who is slowly learning how to be at home within themselves. Next time your child screams at the register, try not to ask how to stop it. Ask yourself what skill is being born in this moment. Maybe it is the skill of hearing no. Maybe it is the skill of enduring a fire inside. Maybe it is the skill of finding peace after a storm. This thought will not make the store instantly quiet. People might still look and the child might still cry. You might still feel awkward, but a small pause will appear inside you. Sometimes, parenting starts with exactly that. It starts with one pause and one short phrase. It starts with one parent who becomes just a little bit quieter in the loudest moment. You do not have to be flawless to be a reliable anchor for your child.